Hello everyone and welcome to the first episode of Two Irish Lads Love Movies. Today we're going to be ranking all of the Marvel movies in Phase 1 and Phase 2 of the MCU in advance of the release of Thunderbolts. We considered doing all the Infinity Saga in one go and thought that's insane. That's not going to work out, so we're going to split it up. My name's Dave.
And I'm John.
And we're Two Irish Lads that love movies. Alright, we're going to get straight into the ranking here. We've got our categories ranging the whole way down from S, A, B, C, D and Multiverse Saga Bad. We're going to go through the movies chronologically, so we're going to start with 2008's Iron Man. Do you want to go first on this one, John?
Probably one of the best. My favourite. And I think the VFX on this movie still really hold up really well. I don't think there would be any other Marvel movies without the success of this one. So I don't know how you feel about it, but I think it's either A, I'm going to say S.
So I do really love it, have a lot of respect for it. I've gone back and watched it a few times over the years in rewatching the whole thing, and it seems a bit formulaic now just in terms of the layout and everything like that. But it's a bit of its time in terms of standard origin story type stuff. But having said that, it tweaks it a little bit. It starts at the Warzone bit and then jumps back and works its way up through the timeline, so it's not just a chronological thing. You're completely right, and the VFX in it are unbelievable. Good mixture of practical. I think, although I'm not 100% certain, I think it was the only Marvel movie show film rather than digital. I think it benefits massively from that. I mean, if you go back and watch it now, there's a lot of it that is, the story is pretty bog standard. The villain is, well, he is interesting because Jeff Bridges plays him well. It's a bit kind of, oh, I'm going to go evil and try to kill him just because that's what the script says I should do.
Yeah, so it's Iron Man fights bigger Iron Man, really, isn't it? Just
basically, yeah.
Kind of a trope that seems to happen quite often in Marvel movies, but yeah, I think Jeff Bridges does a good job.
I mean, the casting is absolutely impeccable. It's the reason that the MCU was able to take off. I mean, obviously Downey, but the rest of them as well, and Gwyneth Paltrow is very good.
Yeah.
Terrence Howard, I don't know, that's the whole thing, but he was decent in that movie. But I mean, obviously, I think Cheadle is better.
I actually completely forgot about that whole recasting.
Yeah. One of the few that ever happened in the MCU, but
yeah.
I would agree with S with this, and this controversial take here because everybody just phrases it. I would agree with S, but a lot of that S for me is nostalgia, how much it did in terms of quality set up that the MCU was able to be born out of it as a movie that stands on its own. I think it's probably A, but in my heart it's an S. So yeah, I'm willing to throw it into an S.
Okay, let's put it at an S. So
I would, our very first episode, our very first ranking, I'm not going to start with a controversial take of being like, Iron Man is not an F-tier movie. Yeah, and honestly, the one thing that we have to touch upon that wasn't mentioned is post-credit scene. It was just when post-credit scenes weren't the thing, and it was just absolute game changer.
Yeah,
it's also astounding how well that movie operates when you look at the behind-the-scenes stuff of they were writing the script on the go every day. It was basically Downey and Jon Favreau and Kevin Feige just devising it as they went. There was no proper structure to it. The whole Sam Jackson thing at the end was thrown in last minute, and they had multiple different lines of what it could have been that didn't mention the Avengers at all and all this. And it's so strange now looking back at that because it seems like it was so pre-planned and structured. Yeah. There you go, Star Wars. Sometimes you can just wing it and it worked. Okay, so moving on to The Incredible Hulk, also 2008. And I think when Marvel were releasing the two of those, they probably thought Hulk was going to do a lot better than Iron Man did.
I don't know how many people actually have seen this film or know that it's part of the MCU. I guess maybe more so now than before, but
do you mean because they released a sequel to it 14 years later in the name of Captain America?
I don't know. Look, this movie is very, very different to Iron Man, released in the same time. I don't have any real love for this film at all. I'm right in saying it's Edward Norton that's playing Hulk in this. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, or Bruce Banner even. I don't have much else to say about this film, really. I D maybe, unless you have some. I feel like you have a very strong opinion of this.
No, I don't. I mean, I have a strong opinion that it's bad. So,
Yeah. Okay.
no, I think it has a few redeeming qualities to it, and I think that it's like obviously part of the reason people don't think of it in the MCU is because it's a very forgettable movie. But I also think it's probably the only movie in the MCU that has a different tone, like completely different tone, and it's because they were both filmed at the same time, released in the same summer, and like the whole continuity idea hadn't really been fleshed out. So like it is a lot like even in visual style, it's filmed a lot darker. You know, there's none of that kind of, even in the serious MCU movies like Endgame and stuff like that, there's a lot more humor and gags just peppered throughout than you would have gotten in this. And you know, within the 2 years after that to Iron Man 2, they had figured out, right, this is going to be our consistent tone throughout the whole thing in terms of the dotting of jokes and stuff like that. So I think it stands out like a sore thumb because of that.
Yeah, fair enough.
And again, obviously, the second probably of two only really big recastings in the MCU, given Norton being the Hulk in it.
Yeah. VFX in this, I'm trying to remember.
Not great.
I mean, like, let me.
Hulk is.
He definitely changed.
Hulk's, you know, spends 7 days a week in the gym, and he's taken some secret sauce. Like, he's just he's just muscular and nothing else, basically. And yeah, he's very CGI. There's no facial resemblance to Norton or anything like that, which, you know, they leaned way more on when it became Ruffalo. The Abomination is, you know, he's just basically a grey Hulk. So yeah, the fight scene in New York is okay, but it goes on way too long. It's about 20 minutes long. It's just like dark, two CGI messes hitting each other. I would say that Tim Roth is quite good in it before he becomes the Abomination. He plays, I don't know if you remember, he plays the kind of the villain, well, the army guy that's sent after Hulk by Ross.
Who was also a recast, obviously different scenario, but that's another recasting there.
What is?
Later down the line.
No, Tim Roth
changed.
Tim Roth still plays him.
No, sorry, not Tim Roth.
Oh, sorry, William Hurt. Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Which we've only had one movie of it, and it's not a great movie, but I actually think Harrison Ford is better. So.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, he's Harrison Ford, I guess. I just reminded myself of what the Abomination looked like in this film versus in the Shang-Chi he made an appearance in again.
Yeah, and in She-Hulk as well.
And She-Hulk as well, okay, which I have not seen. A big change, similar to Hulk, like way more kind of in line with his traditional appearance, more so than early 2000s. Not even early 2000, mid 2000 to late 2000 weird CGI mess.
Is there? I don't really remember. I'd have to look at the newer version. I thought I just remembered him having new fish ears.
He's got fish ears and he's like a little less like, I think the older one is like, it's got weird bones. He's got
he's got spikes.
His rib cage and spikes and yeah, it's weird. Yeah, this movie sucks, basically.
Yeah, it's not great, and they decided to shoehorn Downey Jr. into the last scene just to try and boost the box office, and it didn't really work. So, and makes no sense whatsoever in terms of the storyline. Like, as we find out in Iron Man 2, Samuel L. Jackson is like, we're not putting you in the Avengers, you make no sense. But then for some strange reason he was sent to recruit the Hulk. Anyway, yeah, I'd agree with you. I'd say it's probably, I'd nearly go as far as to say Multiverse Saga bad. Like my
I think it's of its time.
Idea of Multiverse Saga bad, basically, because there's ones in the Multi Saga that I like, but I just mean it would, if it got released today within the Multiverse one, you'd be like, yeah, that's par for course of the kind of quality that we're getting at the moment.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, yeah, I think probably Multiverse Saga bad is more in line with how we feel about this.
But let's plop him in there. Okay, next up we have Iron Man 2, 2010.
How do you feel?
I can go first on this one if you want, rather than putting you on the spot every time. Yeah, I mean, certainly not as bad as The Incredible Hulk, but not great. It's saved a lot by Downey Jr.'s performance. but the storyline is just absolute garbage. It's all over the place. The whole poisoning, making up a new element that doesn't exist. The end fight is just basically Iron Man versus robots and a bigger Iron Man again, except this time he has a whip. Yeah, not great. But there are a few quite redeeming qualities in it. As I say, Downey is excellent. The Monaco racetrack sequence is class.
Yeah.
I would probably say of every movie in the entire MCU, it's probably got the coolest suit up with the suitcase.
Yeah, I was gonna say cool suitcase.
Yeah.
Probably one of the when I think about this movie, that Monaco racetrack, the whole thing, like the action sequence there is pretty incredible. There's some funny cameos as well. We got a little Elon Musk there at the start as well.
If you think that's a funny cameo, alright.
Well, it's thinking about like life now compared to when this movie came out. I don't think anybody would have expected it to go him to go where he has.
Oh, I'm just trying to think of other redeeming qualities on this. Yeah, I suppose Cheadle's recast. Cheadle's is excellent in it. Established himself well as Rhodey. There's a throwaway line in it when he first shows up, and Downey kind of looks at him odd, and he's like, I can't remember what he says. Something like, "Yeah, I got a new haircut. Get over it," or something like that. Yeah, Favreau has been quite clear on the fact that he was not happy with this movie. That he felt a lot more restriction than he did with the first one from the studio side of things. He wanted a 2011 release, they wanted a 2010, so he felt too rushed, and it really soured him on it. I think it's probably why he didn't come back on the directing side for 3, and I think it basically suffered from them having decided that they were doing a big shared universe, building towards the Avengers. This was the first kind of signs of things where it's like, this is just going to be about setting it up rather than the story that we're actually fulfilling in this movie. So I wouldn't be the biggest fan of it.
Yeah, I think Sam Rockwell is quite good in this, actually.
True. Yeah.
I mean, I feel like he pretty much is just playing Sam Rockwell, kind of weird character, but he's pretty good in it. He's very entertaining. I do agree with you. It's just like, this is definitely the movie that suffered, where it's like, okay, well, we need to introduce characters and set up for the next one, which will then be a setup for the next one.
Yeah. It's probably the worst offender for that in the entire MCU, because they hadn't found the balance yet.
Yeah, I don't think... Is it Whiplash is his name?
Yeah.
I think it's just Iron's buddy fight a lot of robot Iron Men. Yeah. It's a little... It's more the same.
That's the one reason that I think the action scene in Monaco is so much better than the rest of the movie, is because in that scene, Whiplash isn't just Iron Man suit with whips, which is what he is in the end. It's just him, like Solo as a human with these kind of, arc reactor whips. So he's at least a little bit different from Iron Man in terms of the fight style, like, and stuff like that. Whereas the last one, he's just in an Iron Man suit again, like, But yeah, not great. And I remember as well that whole thing about Mickey Rourke, like, went off and put himself in a prison in Russia for like 2 weeks or something like that to do method acting stuff. And it's like, well, that didn't pay off. Like, and there's a weird subplot with a bird. Do you remember that? Yeah. That was,
this obsession over the bird.
Yeah. So no, not great. The one thing I would say is you're 100% right on the Sam Rockwell thing. He is excellent. It's a pity they never brought him back. I think there's definitely opportunity there for that.
Yeah, maybe you never know. Could one of these future films? I feel like something like Thunderbolts would be perfect for him to just show up and be a bit of an asshole. I think he kind of fits that roster. But I guess because we haven't seen him in so long, maybe he's not really inclined to do any more of that stuff after how Iron Man 2 did. I don't know.
But I don't think the time thing makes any difference. Sure, they had your man from The Incredible Hulk show up in Brave New World this year, so...
Fair enough. Yeah. How are we feeling? So
I'd probably not quite as low on it as the Hulk, so I'd probably be saying D.
Okay, I'm going to say C because of that Monaco sequence. I actually think a lot of the action is good. I just wish that they didn't finish... Like, even that fight sequence at the end is pretty good with Warhammer. Like the two of them, kind of, there's some cool shots, but it's just like it would have been nicer or more interesting if characters they were fighting were just like more Iron Man, I guess.
Just so you don't take a lot of abuse, I'm just gonna say War Machine, not Warhammer.
Did I say Warhammer?
The lads off painting the
Yeah.
there. Sorry, the one thing that we should touch upon before moving on is introduction of Black Widow. So, you know, obviously key character and key down the line. You know, did a rewatch these a couple of years ago, so they're fairly fresh in my mind, and was able to do the perspective of everything that comes. And like, well, I think Scarlett Johansson is amazing in that role. It is an absolute nothing role in that movie. It's just like absolute just Google at her kind of thing, and just like really lingering creepy shots on her and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, worthwhile introduction, and you know, great character in the long run, but not utilized well in that movie.
Right, what are we next?
Okay, so next up we have Thor 2011. I'll go first on this one. So I'm a pretty big fan of it. I think it's interesting. It's the first kind of test that it had of proving that it could integrate a completely different type of movie into the MCU. So like, you know, there's not that much variance between the Hulk and the two Iron Mans that we had at that point. And, you know, we knew that Captain America was coming up on the horizon. It was going to be a period piece and everything like that. But the idea that you were going to have this lad who could control electricity, fly around with a hammer and, you know, go to space and all that kind of stuff it was like, how is that going to integrate with the kind of real world setting that had been set up in Iron Man? And it did it really well. I think Branagh was a good choice for director. He has some weird obsession with Dutch angles in this movie. Every second shot is a Dutch angle, which is a bit weird. I love Dutch angles, what's the next guy? But like, you know, they lose their meaning if you're doing it every time. But yeah, look, I mean, casting again, absolutely excellent. Hemsworth's obviously very good. Hiddleston, one of the few villains that actually made an impression, stuck around. Hopkins brings a bit of gravitas to it. Yeah, I'm a pretty big fan of it. I mean, you know, story-wise, again, it's pretty relatively standard. There's some questionable CGI, and one problem this movie has that all the Thor movies had, to be honest, is Asgard feels really empty. Anytime we go there, all you ever see is like the royal side of things and a couple of soldiers in a hall. It doesn't really feel like it's a place that's lived in, you know. And it's meant to be like, he's fighting for the people of Asgard. And I'm like, okay, but where are the people of Asgard? But overall, yeah, big fan of it, really liked it. I think the action in it is mediocre, but settings done well, and casting is excellent.
Yeah, like I agree with pretty much everything you said. I'm glad we got over the bleached blonde eyebrows. I think they did a good job of making Thor less of, like, from the few comics I've read, or in the comics, it can be kind of cringy depending on what you're reading, but for the most part they made him pretty now there is a little bit of like childish tantrums in this, but I think that's part of his character development throughout this film and the rest of them. I'm pretty much in agreement with you. It's not my favourite by a long shot, but I do think they did a good job. I actually like Idris Elba as Nell as well for the few times we see him. I think that's like a very good casting, and I really like Anthony Hopkins as Odin as well.
And Rene Russo, in fairness to her, in the long run, when they finally gave her something to do in Endgame, she ended up being good as Thor's mother, but in this didn't have much to do, even less in Dark World. But yeah, and Portman, I actually, to be honest, I don't think Portman is great casting. She's a great actress, I like her and other stuff. I don't feel any great chemistry between her and Hemsworth, and you know, I didn't think her character was great. Didn't mind what's her sidekick's name, Darcy. And Selvig it's you know, once again an unlikely reoccurring character. He's good in it, and you know, on the casting side of things, Hemsworth is some fine, but like to have a guy with that kind of build and everything like that, and this is the first kind of, you can kind of see a little bit of glimmers of this guy has really good comedic chops, but obviously they don't lean into it because they're like, oh, you know, he's leading man looks, but like there's that great when he's the bit where he's kind of asking about the horse in the pet store to ride around on, and when he drinks the coffee and just smashes the mug thing, like give me more and stuff like that.
Another.
He there's like little inklings there that you could see that would pay off in Ragnarok, but he's yeah, sensational find.
How are we feeling? So do you feel like this is S, A, B?
Oh god, no, I wouldn't be going as high as S. Sorry, maybe I was sounding too praiseworthy there. I mean, it's still quite bog standard in terms of story. I think it's just excellent casting. They play well off each other. I wouldn't be saying the script is anything exceptional. I'd probably be leaning, I mean, it's got to be a bit higher than Iron Man 2, realistically. I'd probably be leaning to a B myself. Where are you
I think I'm happy with B. It's definitely not, like, it's a good film for what it is, good introduction. I think it serves a purpose. It is essentially another film where we're being introduced to a lot of fresh new characters. And I think as well, because of just the nature of the Asgardian stuff, there might be some characters there that people would have never they hadn't read any comics or anything. So I think it serves its purpose, but it's still fairly enjoyable. Yeah, I think B is fair.
Fair enough. Yep. We're not having a lot of disagreement on this.
Yeah.
Okay, so next up, same summer, 2011, Captain America, The First Avenger.
Okay, I'm quite opinionated on Captain America in general. I can't remember if you and I have ever had a conversation about this, but I definitely am not a huge America fan. I like some of the films. The character for me, I don't know what it is. There's some part of me that just hates him. Or maybe loves to hate him. I don't know. Maybe I'm trying to be too alternative and too different. But again, really good casting. Oh my God, his name is escaping me.
Chris
Captain
Evans.
America. Chris Evans had played Johnny Storm, Fantastic Four. A very different character this time around. Yeah, I mean, again, another introduction film. Like, we get to meet the characters. There's some good sequences. I like the fact that we it's a very good. It serves its purpose. Good origin story. There's some good action in it. Red Skull. I don't know how you feel about him. I don't think he's a worse villain. I don't think he's anything special in this. Yeah, It's fine. I like the costume and a lot of the set design, and like it definitely feels like of its time. I thought that aspect was good. Story is, for me, meh. It's not a film I want to go back and watch anytime soon. As far as Captain America films go, it's definitely not. It wouldn't be the one I'd go back and watch. I think you're more of a fan of him than I.
Well, John, you know that I'm a full-blown Captain America replica shield. We can finally have a bit of conflict. So Captain America is the best character in the MCU, in my opinion. So I don't know. I just really like him, and it's not like, you know, we're Irish. It's not like some sort of undying patriotism towards the States or anything like that. But I actually think that's possibly why I think he's so good, is that, like, on the face of it, and this really comes to the fore when you get to Civil War, but on the face of it, your assumption is, with a name like Captain America, that it would just be kind of like rah-rah patriotism kind of thing. But he's not that. Like, he stands for the principles rather than a particular nation, and he will go up against the government and those in power to stand for the principles if necessary. And like, Evans is like, it could be so easy to, in fact, it's almost impossible to get to not come off as super cringe in that role, and he somehow does it. I think he's excellent, but like, he just has the most interesting arc of any character in the MCU, I think. Well, actually, Tony probably has a better arc, but I really like Chris Evans' portrayal of it, what this movie sets up in terms of what that arc is, because it's the thing that he has to deal with the entire way through, is that everyone that he knows and loved is gone, and he's on his own, and his ideals and viewpoint are no longer relevant to the world. But speaking of this specific movie, I agree with you on Red Skull. I think that he's a decent villain, but he is, and I think it's a purposeful choice, he's basically evil Nazi villain from Indiana Jones. You know, there's not exactly a lot of nuance to him or anything like that. A lot of the movie is kind of hyping towards the Raiders of the Lost Ark in a lot of ways, I think. And I think the action scenes are decent, nothing particularly exceptional that I can recall. I think the effects in it for the tiny Steve Rogers are exceptional for something from 2011. Like, it really is seamless. It genuinely looks like it's him. And, like, it's not one shot. Like, it's, like, half an hour of the movie. So that's really well done. I also think it's got the best romance of the entire MCU, which is impressive given that they only had one movie to do it. But I think Haley Atwell's excellent in it, and they actually have good chemistry. Hamilton Jones is quite funny in it. Yeah, there's a lot to like. Yeah, I think the action does leave it down. Kind of standard origin story stuff leaves it down. I didn't really feel the Bucky. I didn't feel their friendship that much. Probably could have, like, obviously there's reasons that they didn't lead the build for a full movie because of what they wanted to do with him, but it would have benefited maybe of having a full movie and then having that happen to him in the second one, just to have actual impact from it. Yeah, overall, quite like it.
Do you feel like, just to go back to what you were saying about Bucky, do you feel like some of the other films have kind of suffered the same fate from, like, just character relationships in general? Like, I think the only one I can think of where this might just be down to the actual actors having a good relationship, but I think, like, if you look at, like, Tony Stark and Happy, their relationship from the get-go, you can, like, it's very good. Whereas you look at, I know it's on a romance side, but, like, if you look at, like, with Captain America and even in Thor, they both suffer the same, where I just don't think a lot of their other characters are supporting characters that are supposed to be close to them don't really feel like they're that close to them, if that makes sense, or if they've got a strong relationship. Whereas I think Iron Man might be the only one of those initial films where they feel like they've been around those characters for a while.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
I'd agree with that. Yeah, I think that Captain America overcomes that further down the line. I think his relationship with Black Widow is really, really interesting. I think his relationship with Sam is quite good as well. But I end up feeling his relationship with Sam much more than I did with Bucky. So yeah, I'd agree. Obviously his relationship with Peggy I bought, but the rest of it I'm kind of like, yeah,
it feels forced.
Yeah, pretty much. Sorry, there's one scene that in particular that I wanted to comment on, and you're going to think this is super naff, but this is like the epitome of Captain America for me. Is just the grenade scene when everyone else runs away from the grenade and he dives on it, and just like, I know it's like super, like, you know, that is heroism type thing or whatever, but it gets to me that he's like, the thing with Stanley Tucci the night before his transformation, when he's like, I could have chosen somebody, you know, who was already bigger, muscular or whatever, but it's about, you know, choosing someone who, or what's I can't remember what the actor with the line is.
Whatever happens tomorrow, you must promise me one thing. It's that you will stay who you are. Not a perfect soldier, but a good man.
And when he asks him, like, do you want to kill Nazis? And he's like, I don't want to kill anyone. I just don't like bullies. I don't know. It's just, the character hits right for me because I think it could so easily be absolutely horrendous. And I think it's, like, just done right. But
yeah,
we can fight more about him down the line, because I'm only going to start praising him more the better his movies are, because this is just his you know, his...
This is a start.
Decent
movie. I think that, look, just to what you're saying about that scene, I do think that whole, as much as I hate it, that jumping on a grenade thing, and I just want to fight bullies, that all that kind of stuff, it's good writing. It does the job perfectly, sets him up for where he's supposed to go. So I mean, I can't really complain about that. Do I love the character? No.
The real point here, John, is I'm a massive sap.
Yeah. You just love Chris Evans and his big shield.
Where do you want to go?
Look, is it worse than Thor? Probably not. Is it better than Iron Man 2?
Yes, is the answer to that.
I'm going to say, look...
You don't think Iron Man 2 is better than it, do you?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I think some of the action in Iron Man 2 is better. But anyway,
I think it's better than Thor.
Okay, so are we saying A?
No, I think it's a B, but I think it's higher than Thor.
It's above Thor. Okay, yeah, I can
live with
that.
Better?
Like, no, not really, I suppose. As much as I hate to say it, I don't.
Alright, Avengers 2012, the big one. I'll go first on this one. So, Jesus, I remember when this came out, this was like such a big deal for me anyway, because I was like, oh my god, I've never seen anything like this where all these movies would come together. When you go back and rewatch it, it's very slow for the first like 40 minutes, but then it really picks up. And look, it's, you know, in some ways it seems tame now, given where it went in terms of how many characters actually end up on screen, the like Endgame and stuff like that. But my God, at the time it was like, how the hell did they actually manage to pull this off and have this be effective, and everybody gets their beats in it, and you know, there's actual character development for every single character within it. It's a solid story. It's got a good villain in bringing Loki back. It's, I mean, look, obviously Josh Whedon has controversies, but he was the right call in terms of press to script this and actually get it to land, like, has a proper understanding of the characters and what the dynamic should be. Because, like, you know, you can have all these solo movies that work really well, but when it comes to those characters interacting with each other, can you sell that they are still the same people from their own solo movies, but you buy their team dynamic? And also, you know, incredible use of how the power sets would work together, both in conflict of them fighting each other and also how they play off each other. You have the first kind of bits of that, of like, you know, throwing the shield against the hammer and stuff like that. You know, or there's like that one take where they're flying through New York, and it's like it follows, you know, like every single one of an Iron Man goes down, he shoots his beam off of the shield, and then he goes up in the air, and you see Hawkeye shooting an arrow and all this kind of stuff. Also, some incredible comedic beats that still get me every time, like Hulk punching Thor. There's a few of them that are trade. So yeah, I love it, to be honest. But I do think that when you go and do a rewatch, that, and I end the movie every time feeling the same way. I watch it and I go, God, I forgot how slow this is for the first 40 minutes. It's very kind of almost TV like and like kind of cheap, and then by the end of it I'm like, oh wow, okay, yeah, they really saved all of that. That was a great call, and you kind of forget about the first section of it.
I think it's hard to dislike this movie. I think it's amazing what they pulled off, having, like what you said, where all these characters are now being put together from their solo movies. I think there's some good action sequences. The New York fight is still great to watch, even if you don't love Hawkeye doing a weird jump off a building, or like there's a lot of Hulk smash. I think probably nearly too much Hulk smash, but
it's the first time that Hulk's actually been utilized on screen properly, though.
Yeah, no, 100%. I like what they did with him.
Yeah,
and I suppose they're probably making up for last time there too, where they need to kind of make him, show off how powerful he is. I think where he catches Loki by the foot
and ragdolls him
and just ragdolls him. I mean, like, I know that's a meme now, but I think that is so good.
Yeah, completely agree. Yeah, I actually think of, and I get if they kind of do it as well in Age of Ultron, but I actually think of all of the Hulk uses, it's probably the best, and I don't know why they moved away from this and towards Smart Hulk, of like, you really get the sense that Hulk he's like a nuclear deterrent. Like, it's like you absolutely do not want him in the game because you don't know what's going to happen, and he is a danger to everyone. But if he is released, it's, all hands off. Like he actually comes do you know there's that Jekyll and Hyde scene, like, with Black Widow on the helicarrier when she's like stuck under the thing and he starts transforming and all this kind of stuff, and like there's so much of it is based around being scared of Hulk, and they have a container on the ship for protecting Hulk, and Loki's whole plan is just get him to transform into the Hulk so that he tears apart the ship and all this kind of stuff. It's like he actually is a monster, like, which is what I think the Hulk should be.
Yeah, I think, do you know what? I actually take back my point about too much Hulk smash. I think, now that you mentioned one of Loki's main focuses in that first half of the film is just to manipulate him and let him run riot, which is like indicative of how powerful and how dangerous that character can be, I guess.
And Ruffalo was playing with one hand behind the back as well, because he, all the others had their time to establish it, and he had to come in pretending he had been there the whole time.
Yeah. How do we feel?
I would probably lean to S, but I mean, I'm happy to accept an A if that's where you fall, but I'd probably go S myself.
Oh, I actually think we'll be in agreement with this one. I like what it's done for the first few films, but also like what it accomplished was very, very impressive at the time. And that fight sequence, the battle in New York is very, 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 very good.
Yeah, it really is. It's and Scarlett Johansson finally becomes a character in this one as well, which is nice. Hawkeye gets short shift, but they make up for that down the line. Not everyone can get their time. And the first sight of Thanos, something that they really dragged out. But anyway,
yeah, we finally got a look at him, but again, more setup, I guess. We're moving on to Iron Man.
Just before we move on to the next one, I suppose just as the conclusion of phase 1 thing there, just to say that, because we commented on it for every single one of these so far, is that I kind of think the unsung hero of all of the MCU, because Feige gets so much praise for it, is Sarah Halley Finn. She's the casting director. She's been the casting director for Marvel from the first movie until today. And I think so much of it is down to her having got them right in the first place.
Yeah, especially those main heroes are all. I like Downey. When they picked Downey, if I'm not mistaken, was in a bad place. I don't think anyone in Hollywood really wanted to touch him.
Yeah,
that is such a gamble.
He was paid less than Terrence Howard for the first movie. He was
which is insane.
He was second. Well, he wasn't second billing, but he was second pay wise on his own movie. But yeah, absolutely incredible stuff. I think in a way, and I'm not saying this is a good thing, because it ultimately, system wise, I think it was probably bad, but it's not down to her. I think that kind of what she achieved in the casting of them is kind of what led in a lot of ways towards the whole thing of not having to have big stars. I suppose Batman, Spider-Man didn't have huge people in it either, but the whole concept of kind of, you can just take an unknown person and put them in, you're selling it off of the role and the name of the character, rather than selling it off of, this is a Tom Cruise movie, or this is a Will Smith movie, or whatever. Basically the death of the movie star. Downey is as huge as he is or whatever, but when he goes and tries to open a Dr. Dolittle movie, it's not exactly selling like hotcakes.
I forgot about that movie. Oh my god.
It's not great.
Yeah, jeez.
Anyway, sorry, just wanted to give her a little praise there, because I think it's incredible casting ability. Right, Iron Man 3, you're up for us this time.
I think for as good as Downey is, I just don't think that, for the most part, any of his solo films, but besides the first one, I don't think they did him any favors. I don't like this movie either. I think maybe it's just an Iron Man's, his villains are terrible. They're so bad. There's at no point did I find myself I don't like this film. I think there's some nice moments. His whole thing when he has, does he have some sort of and then he ends up flying off and landing.
Yeah, he has.
Does he crash land somewhere with the kid?
Well, those are two different things. But yeah, he has, towards the start, he has a panic attack about the near-death experience from the Avengers when he was in space. And he there's a load of kids surrounding him and people filming him and stuff, and he gets into the suit and flies off. And then it's kind of running theme. He also has a panic attack while sleeping and nearly chugs pepper with the Iron Man suit that he's controlling through his mind or whatever. But then the bit where he flies off into the snow is after the attack on the mansion, when he gets buried in the ocean.
Oh yeah. So I think I actually like that little interaction. There's some funny moments between him and that kid, I think.
Yeah, I think that's good.
That you can see, he can probably see some of himself in that. I think they kind of tried to lean into that. Don't lean heavy enough into it. Yeah, the whole extremist thing. I know that's an Iron Man thing from the comic, but it just didn't. It didn't really feel that well written. I guess, I don't know. I just didn't. The characters, every one of those veterans that is essentially just a ticking time bomb, never really felt like they were that interesting. I mean, Mandarin's in this, isn't he?
Yeah.
At one point.
Well, it's not at one point. He's the main villain.
Is he?
It's Ben Kingsley until it turns out that he's Trevor Slattery from Croydon.
Yeah.
And then it's
My God.
Then it's Guy Pearce with a load of tattoos being like, I am the Mandarin.
No, yes, I completely forgot about that. I remember Ben Kingsley. I just didn't remember that they were also. Yeah, jeez. Yeah, this movie. I mean, cool little sequence with all the Iron Man suits. I'm glad we got to see a little bit of variation from just his regular stuff. Like, there's some really cool sequences there, but again, yeah, I mean, you can take it or leave it.
Yeah, I'm not in complete agreement with you because I used to love this movie. I actually used to think it was the best Iron Man movie, but I've soured on it over the years a bit whenever we watched it. I just haven't found it as... I don't know, initially I found it quite funny and stuff like that. I actually like the Mandarin twist. I know it pissed a lot of people off, but I think it's quite bold and it was really, really funny. Unfortunately, the villain they replace him with is useless, whereas he was actually imposing and threatening up until that point. At least it's not just another big Iron Man suit villain. He's a bit different to that, but I have soured on it a bit over the years. I do think the relationship with the kid is good. I think the PTSD stuff is interesting. I think of the 3 Iron Man movies, it's got the best action scenes. You know, the mansion attack is good. There's a few bits where Tony has to fight without his suit and just kind of uses ingenuity and being smart, which is quite good in the town, and he has to like invade Purvis Ladder's mansion and he's just using like bits that he bought from a Home Depot to like electrocute people and stuff. And I think the suit fight at the end with the multiple suits is really, really good. And the Air Force One sequence is quite good when he's catching all the people as they're falling in the sky. The whole remote suit thing, it's the start of I'm gonna have a running thing as we go through these of deteriorating suit opinion. Like, I think it gets worse when it goes to the nano of it. I didn't really like that whole thing, and it kind of depleted the strength of the Iron Man suit as well. Like in the first one, you know, can take rockets from tanks and all sorts of stuff, and then this one it's like it gets hit by a car and it just like falls apart. Like, okay. And the one thing when I rewatched this, and this is a minor thing but it really bothers me, is his relationship with Pepper and everything. And then when she gets thrown off scaffolding and you're meant to think that she's dead, and Tony's like, oh my god, or whatever, and he's fighting the villain, and there's like a bit where he tries to get the suit to fly towards him and it hits off something and shoots down, and he kind of makes like a little quip thing of like, oh whatever, like he's exasperated. And it really, really bothers me because I'm like, we're meant to believe that like you think the love of your life just died in a flaming inferno and you're just making quips like 2 seconds later. I don't know why, it really bothered me. It's just really inconsistent. But yeah, look, I do have more warm feelings towards it than you, particularly in the action front. And I think the relationship stuff in it is, given what we were talking about it not being great in the first phase for relationship bits, I think they're quite good in this.
Do you think it's the best Iron Man film in terms of action?
No, I don't. In terms of action, yes. Yeah, I do.
Because that is, for me, that's its saving grace, to be fair. Now, as much as I like start of Iron Man 2 and all that stuff, this one, to be fair, I think from the get-go is quite like consistent there.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about that. I don't think there's any particular sensational action scenes in one either. Like the cave escape is good, and the Afghanistan village is decent, but it's like 30 seconds long. And the final fight is a bit useless when they just go up in the air and then he throws a car at them. That's about it. So yeah, I would say it has the best action.
Okay, where are we going to put it?
I know where I would put it, but you want to make it go?
Is it better than 2? Yes. I'm going to put it behind Captain America.
Okay, alright. Fair enough. I was also B. I probably would have put it ahead of Captain America, but I'm happy enough to go there. That's really fallen in my estimation. Like, there was a time when I thought that was really, really good.
It's just, yeah. What have we next?
Thor the Dark World, 2013 as well. I think it probably gets a little bit too hard a time. It got some okay action scenes in it. They still haven't found the right tone for the character. They haven't led enough towards the comedic side of things. I think it's the weakest of his trilogy. But I suppose we're probably dumping on this for the most part here. So just a couple of things on the positive front is Loki is utilized well. I think that there is some good action scenes in it. I think the last action scene with jumping between worlds and stuff is actually quite interesting. At least it's different. You know, the jumping between the portals from London to the different worlds and all that kind of stuff. The villains are a bit useless. And yeah, again, his relationship with Portman didn't really buy it, which really isn't great for this one because it hinges a lot on that, because it's so much about, you know, the peril for her and the ether being inside her and all this kind of stuff. This is the beginning of one too many Loki death fake outs. Well, actually, sorry, it's not the beginning. There was a death fake out in the first one as well. But yeah, you know, he supposedly dies, but he doesn't. Yeah, I'd probably be... I have warmer feelings to it, more so than the majority of people online, but I certainly wouldn't be going to bat for it.
Yeah, I think, like you said there, the Thor Jane Foster relationship, basically what this movie hinges on, just completely falls flat, and I think it's probably its downfall. I'm not completely opposed to the villains in this. I constantly complain about villains. I don't think they're the worst. I think there's some cool designs for a lot of it. Ears are probably too pointy for me.
Well, they are elves. I actually, it's interesting because I would actually say the one redeeming thing about them is that they have decent design, yeah. But I mean, otherwise
yeah, like I think the whole, you know, the grunt characters are like the general, like those elven characters. You know, they have those masks with the big, like their eye holes are like just black. Just they're quite menacing. Like I think they do a good job there. Yeah, like like just the whole Natalie Portman or Jane Foster, it just doesn't. I mean, like that is what this film is essentially about, and it just doesn't really make the cut. It's not great. While it does kind of fall flat with the whole relationship with Jane Foster, that it's hinging on, it was nice to see some fight scenes in a location like London, somewhere probably closer to home for us. I don't think besides Iron Man, I mean, like obviously Fear and all that kind of carry on, but like real world settings, it for the most part has been America that all these heroes are fighting in. So yeah, I mean, again, look, it's not the worst movie. Villains are like, a lot of people hate these villains, like, and I feel very strongly about the Dark Elves in this. I honestly don't think they're the worst. As a group, I don't really remember the name of the main. You remember the name of the main?
Malekith.
Okay, kind of forgettable. He was.
I'm the only person in the world that remembers that, by the way. So
I think their design was good. I think it just falls flat in the whole Jane Foster thing again. I think they banked on people having more of an attachment maybe to her character than we ended up doing.
Yeah, big time.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah, completely. I agree with you. I do think that you're right in terms of the design work on the elves is quite good. Their ships were quite cool as well. And yeah, the London thing was kind of cool. It certainly had a bit of a different tone and feel to it. Even in my head, the color grade on it is a bit darker as well and stuff like that. So it stands out a little bit. But yeah, wouldn't love it overall. I think there's a missed opportunity there with it as well, because it was originally meant to be directed by Patty Jenkins, I think is her name. And basically she walked away because Marvel were being too what it was going to look like. And she ended up directing Wonder Woman afterwards. The first one, the good one. So actually, sorry, she directed the two of them, so that doesn't sound it. But the first one, I just kind of think of looking at the first one and that tone and grit that she had for a World War I style thing. I think it could have been quite cool for a Thor movie. But anyway, yeah, I wouldn't be going to bat for it. So what are you thinking?
Is it better than the first Thor film?
That is a controversial call. It's not not for me, but I wouldn't fight you over it either if you feel it is.
I mean, look, they fixed the eyebrows, which was a good start.
Instantly a waste.
I think for that, no, I'm joking. I like there's a little bit more grit to this one. I find it better than the first Thor.
Fair enough. I'm going to edit this so that you say that it's purely because the eyebrows that you're putting it ahead.
Perfect.
So I assume we're saying below Iron Man 3 though, surely.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Fair enough. So next up we have Captain America: The Winter Soldier, 2014. Go on now, have a
As
crack
far as
off my boy Captain
No,
America. Yeah.
I'm just trying to. I don't want to start off too negative because I don't have much bad things to finish.
I thought you were going to come in with a hot take here on what's considered one of the best movies in the MCU.
No. I think is this our first Russo?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, what they did here was it's pretty much set the standards for Marvel films, in my opinion. I don't have much bad things to say. I think we get more of the Captain America and Black Widow dynamic is really good.
Yeah.
Bucky being Winter Soldier, for anybody who didn't know, I mean, like, plain and obvious. I don't think there's any hiding it from the offset. I really enjoy this film. I don't have any strong feelings against it really. I think what they did with the suit was pretty cool. I like the toned down version where he's a little bit more stealthy, I guess. Less helmet in this film, which is always a plus.
Yeah.
Can't really complain about this one. I think the Russos did a great job.
And excellent action.
Yeah. By far, like the action in this, we get Falcon in this film as well, don't we?
We do, yeah.
Yeah. So, the whole on your left. Yeah. It's all coming back to me now. Yeah, this, like, some of the motorbike sequences as well are pretty cool, and I'm a big fan of it. I don't think we get enough good motorbike action in movies. For as much motorbikes as there is in film, I don't think there's good enough. I think this movie does a great job. Yeah, less helmet. A big win for me.
I think, yeah. I'm big fan of this one. I think, yeah, look, in agreement with almost everything you said there. Like the Black Widow relationship, really interesting. This is like one of the things that I really like about Steve. I think his most interesting relationships throughout the entire MCU are with Black Widow and with Tony, because they're completely different personalities to him, and it's really interesting seeing his interactions with them and how they both impact each other and how it develops their characters on both sides and the small changes that it makes on them. I think his development as Sam is good. I think the villain side of things is quite good, obviously with Bucky and the Winter Soldier, but also Redford is pretty solid as a kind of overarching evil emperor type figure. And like the action, just, you couldn't praise it enough. Like, and it really stands out in terms of MCU action, because it's obviously there's plenty of CGI in the helicarrier explosion thing at the end and all that kind of stuff, but in terms of action choreography compared to a lot of CGI messes hitting each other in Marvel movies, there's a lot of handheld combat going on, bit of shaky cam stuff. I would probably say the action scene on the motorway is, I'm not going to say it's the best in the MCU because I have one in my head that's better, but it's certainly up there. And it's a good lengthy sequence as well, from Winter Soldier attacking the car the whole way through to, there's a lot of cool small beats in it, of like with Black Widow jumping off of the motorway, and like kind of small cool things the characters do. Like she sees the Winter Soldier's shadow as she's running, so she knows like where to aim when she's pointing upwards. There's the knife fight between Steve and Bucky when he like does the memed knife drop from one hand into the other to try and stab him. And yeah, it's very, very well done. And I actually bought into as much as I was saying in the first movie that didn't give Steve and Bucky enough time, by the end of this movie I bought into him refusing to fight him and dropping the shield instead. So yeah, for me it's a big win. Also Nick Fury's action sequence is cool in his Jeep when he's getting attacked, and all of the things in the Jeep aren't working, where it's like, the flight thing isn't working and the shield isn't working, all this, and he's like, what is working? It's like the aircon is active. Quite a good action scene, but my god, it suffers from the same thing as a lot of phase 1 and phase 2 MCU movies, of bloody death fake outs and just making deaths completely meaningless, because Nick Fury dies but then he's not dead by the end of the movie.
Yeah, oh my god, I completely forgot about that. Yeah, like I don't know why that became like that was just a thing for those films, but
yeah,
it's
Olsen
not.
was
Honestly,
the only one that
probably
kind of stuck, but I mean, it didn't stick on TV, but
Yeah. Look, I don't have anything bad to say about this film, to be honest. As much as I like to hate Captain America, I think this is really good. GSP as, what's the name of the character? The Leaper, or Batroc the Leaper or something was his introduction.
That's
on the
Batroc the Leaper, yeah.
on the ship at start. I like that whole, that entire opening sequence pretty much sets the tone for the rest of this film and what we're
where Cap just blatantly kills about 10 people.
Yeah, okay, there's a lot of deaths, yeah.
I find it funny for the most like kind of idealistic moral one of all of them. He just like has the least qualms about murdering people.
Yeah. So I think this is up there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let you pick.
It might be the first debut as well of the absolute quality MCU undercover outfit of a cap and a pair of sunglasses. Means that you become completely invisible.
Cap and a cap. Yeah, I like it. Yeah.
For me, it would be pushed an S tier, to be honest. I will accept an A if you're have.
No, I don't think there's any, like, even the whole Nick Fury death thing doesn't really bother me that much. I think S is fair.
Okay, next up we have Guardians of the Galaxy. So that was the same summer, 2014. I'll go first on this one. So I've actually gone the opposite way on this to Iron Man 3, which is when I first saw it, I was kind of medium on it. And over the years, it's really grown on me. I probably still think it's the weakest of that trilogy. Well, I'm not sure. I'll have to have a think about that with number 2. I definitely think 3 is the strongest. But I do really like it. I think it's very impressive what they managed to put off in terms of selling that many characters and a solid team dynamic. It was a big risk given that they were complete unknowns. I mean, I'm as nerdy as they come, but I had literally never heard of any of them. You know, they get you to actually care about a raccoon in a tree. It's really, really funny. It's, you know, a massive, massive budget, yet they still let James Gunn, you know, do his thing with it. I think Marvel, when it's at its strongest, is actually allowing a director or a vision to make it their own well within the universe. So yeah, big fan of it. I think Chris Pratt is excellent in it. Obviously they all are, but isn't, you know, it's reliant upon his story. I think that he sells the emotional side of it quite well as the funny side of it. Villain, you know, take it or leave it. It reminded me a lot of the Elves kind of thing, where it's like quite a good aesthetic to it. Like his big hammer that he crushes people's heads with for sacrifice, and the black lines down the face and stuff like that are quite cool. And the ship designs are quite cool. But in terms of, you know, motivation and actual character drive, very meh. Even Nebula isn't particularly compelling in that. She becomes a lot more interesting in later movies. But yeah, and obviously, sorry, when it comes to Guardians, you have to mention the soundtrack, which is absolute quality. So yeah, fairly big fan of it. There's it out a lot weaker in opinion on it, but it's grown on me over the years.
Yeah, like I think this is very different to a lot of the other films now. It has similar, you know, comedic beats and stuff like that, but I think like the introduction to all these characters who the general population has like absolutely no idea of. Like, these are really like deep cut characters. Like you said, I think the first thing that would come to anybody's mind about this film is the soundtrack, and basically became like what these films are known for. Rocket and Groot, their whole relationship's probably one of my favorites in the MCU. Just across the board, I think they're just great characters, done really well. Yeah, just also really good casting.
Emphasis on the was, is it?
Yeah, I like it. I really like this film. I hold it in high regard. It's one of my favorite MCU films across the board. I don't actually like the other Guardians films as much as I like this one, even though there's some of the other films have better. There's more development with the characters and stuff like that. I think this was just a really good film, and as a film like that can stand alone as well. I really enjoy it.
Okay, we can have a fight about the other ones when we get them, so because I actually really like the other two. So where are you landing on it?
I'm gonna put it A.
Okay, grand. And the way you're talking, I thought you were going to say S, to be honest. It would probably be A for me as well, so that's fair enough.
I mean, the fact that they got Vin Diesel in to do like how many takes of I Am Groot should surely be like is that not a tier alone? Like,
If you think he's worth that money, sure. He probably thinks he deserves an Oscar for it. Okay, so we are on to Age of Ultron 2015. You're up first in this one.
so I think, like, I like this film a lot. I think is it the best Avengers film? No, I really like Ultron.
Is it the worst
As much
Avengers
as-
film? Yes.
Yeah, okay. Like, I think there's some, like, it has some strong points, definitely. I think, personally, I really like Ultron. I think he's probably, like I know we meet Thanos before, but that's only brief. I think Ultron in this is quite menacing. I think he's a villain done right. Yeah, like there's some parts of this film. I mean, I don't really care for Quicksilver. I think his death was whatever. I think a lot of people probably feel the same way. Good introduction to Wanda. This is her introduction. This is her first appearance.
Yeah, she was in a post-credit scene before that, but yeah, basically it's her.
I think that fight scene through the forest, that like the slow-mo where they're all just kind of leaping forward, I really like.
The comic panel splash page.
Yeah, the splash page stuff. I like a lot of that stuff. There's some kind of interesting conflict with, I think, Tony as well, just on the whole Ultron thing, and how he essentially just made a monster. I like the party, the lifting the hammer.
Yeah.
Thor's hammer is nice and fun. We see the character is probably in a setting maybe that we haven't really seen him before.
Yeah.
The end of it, I think it probably falls short on the ending. I don't know. I don't particularly care for that whole. Is it Sokovia?
Yeah.
Am I right in saying that whole like lifting Sokovia up and dropping it? There's some interesting parts, but again, yeah, no, it's not. It's fine. Ultron was a big positive for me. I don't know how you feel about him, but
Yeah, so when I was like, is it the worst one? Yes. That isn't. I actually do quite like this movie, but I still think all four of the Avengers movies are quite good, so it's not that much of a diss on it. But I do think it's probably the weakest of them, only because I feel like all of the other ones, like first Avengers was, it was a new thing, and I think Infinity War and Endgame, where we get them, they're a different style of story. This is basically Avengers 1 again, and it's good, but it's a copy of it. It's, you've got kind of somewhat Shakespearean boisterous villain. It's Ultron instead of Loki. You've got, instead of the Chitauri, you've got these robots. Instead of New York, it's a floating city. There's so much of it is kind of copy and paste. But like, having said that, I do like Ultron. I think he's a decent villain. He's kind of funny and malevolent. I agree with you. Quicksilver didn't get enough screen time for the death to mean anything. I think when this movie is at its strongest is what you were saying about the lifting Thor's hammer bit. It's seeing the team dynamics and just seeing them interacting. I think the party scene and Hawkeye's farm are the two best bits of this movie. Just because it's actually interesting. And there's that, I love the interaction between Cap and Tony when they're chopping the wood, and he's got like his tiny little pile and he's like, don't steal from my pile. But yeah, like there's a lot of really good character dynamics in it, and the action is decent as well, to be fair. Like you said, the open action sequence is good. There's a kind of motorbike chase, John, you love motorbikes. There's a motorbike chase in South Korea, which is decent. And I know what you're saying about the whole floating city thing, and Sokovia not really buying it that much, and I don't disagree with that as like the concept of it, but there's some nice little action beats within it. Hawkeye kind of getting this moment of like going out shooting a load of arrows at the same time, and there's the hero shot with the same, again, like this is what I mean about it kind of being a copy of the first one, but it is a cool shot. There's like a single shot thing where it spins around all of them at the same time in slow-mo, and they're like shooting beams off each other and flipping in the air and all this kind of stuff when they're trying to protect the thing in the center of the town. So yeah, it's good. It's got, and sorry, speaking of action scenes, the Hulk in South Africa destroying the city when he's taken over by Scarlet Witch, and the Hulkbuster fight, that's actually class.
Yeah, sorry, I completely just skimmed over that and
I forgot
never
that as well
mentioned
until
that.
just right now. Yeah.
That sequence is really, really, really good, and there's a nice nod to that whole Hulkbuster thing from the comics too.
Yeah.
It's really, really shows like how devastating the Hulk can be too, especially when he's being controlled by somebody else.
But for me, ultimately, I think it's somewhat a rehash of the first one and a little overstuffed as well. Like there's a lot of, it's got a bit of suffering from setup for future things, which whatever about the solo movies, the Avengers movies really shouldn't be that. There should be the culmination of it. Like Andy Serkis being in it, like, you know, it was a bit unnecessary. Like he was put in there just so that he could appear in Black Panther later. You know, that type of stuff. Thor goes off on a little adventure to a pool for some visions about the Infinity Stones and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, yeah, like, you know, you don't need to be putting that in the team up movie. It should be its own thing. So yeah, certainly not as big a fan of it as the first one, but it's got its moments.
Okay, where are we gonna place this?
For me, it would probably be upper B.
Yeah, would you put it? You know what? Yeah, I agree with that. I don't enjoy it as much as Guardians. I prefer it to First Avenger, Captain America: The First Avenger.
Okay.
I think the villain. I think Ultron actually, outside of the fact that he is again just kind of another Iron Man character, robot, whatever, with millions of minions, I still pretty much enjoy, for the most part, everything he does in that movie. So,
and Vision's introduction wasn't bad either, to be fair.
yeah.
Okay, so last up is Ant-Man 2015. So I liked this movie fine. And you know, this is a bit unfair because it's not the movie's fault in any way, shape, or form. But anytime I think of this movie, it's of any MCU movie, it's very much got a what could have been about it, because Edgar Wright was meant to direct it right up until like 6 weeks before shooting and walked away. And I just think it would be a way more interesting movie if it had been him. But having said that, I think that it ended up being quite good, quite enjoyable. Certainly the best of the three Ant-Man movies. Christ, if we get to the multiverse saga, I'll have something to say about Quantumania and that bag of garbage. But yeah, like I did enjoy it. Certainly suffers from Iron Man villain fatigue of it's just Ant-Man but in a yellow suit instead of a red suit. Very weak villain. Michael Douglas is good in it. I pretty much buy Paul Rudd's relationship with Hope. I'm mixing actors and characters there. Scott's relationship with Hope. I think again it's a movie that is saved by the casting. I think that Rudd is very good in the role. He's very funny. A couple of fun sequences of little heists and stuff like that. The shrinking effect is well done, particularly his first shrinking in the bathtub, and he makes his way through the building and is in a nightclub and all this kind of stuff. That's quite good. They kind of managed to sell the whole thing of controlling ants as much as you can without it being completely ludicrous. And there's a couple of inventive action sequences, like the Thomas the Tank Engine train fight is quite good at the end. With the great shot of like it coming towards them as if it's a real train and they're going to get crushed, and then it just cuts to the wide shot and it's just the toy train just falls over. And yeah, a few bits like that. So I enjoy it. I think it's a nice palate cleanser post Stage of Ultron.
Yeah, it's, look, again, like you said, Iron Man villain fatigue. Once you kind of get over that, I think it's pretty good kind of comedic heist film for what it is. Like palate cleanser is a good way to describe it. It's very much like, yeah, all that, like we ramped up this far and now let's just kind of, pardon, like just take a step back and look at the smaller roots here. Like this, it's very much like not a refresh, but a nice off kind of, let's turn right here and look at something else for a while. I like Paul Rudd. Just in general, I think he's very, very, very funny. And I think, again, like you said, like casting here is incredible.
Michael Penn is very good in that.
Yeah. Who else is it? So there's Rudd, Henya, and what's the other guy's name? He's kind of weird.
Oh, David.
Their little trio.
David Mulchin.
Is that okay? Jeez, never.
And T.I., but I don't know if we don't need to talk about T.I.
Yeah. Let's not get into T.I. Their little posse there's a nice dynamic between them as well. Kind of like, this is a little bit more grounded. It does get weird, obviously, with the whole ants and being a tiny human thing. But those are the more real moments in this film are actually quite good. Is it my favorite Marvel movie or no? I really do enjoy the character though. I think Paul Rudd from here on, like his appearances in the other movies, he's an excellent character. He's kind of as much as there's many funny characters in these movies, I always enjoy seeing him on screen, I think.
That would have been a wild take, by the way, if you just came in there with, this is my favorite Marvel movie. Yes, I'm the one person in the world who Ant-Man is their favorite Marvel movie.
Number one Ant-Man fan.
It is kind of weird and surprising how important he has become to the MCU and how much he shows up in other stuff.
Yeah, he seems to just be that character, which you would never have pinned him for.
And even as a character himself, like within the movies, he's kind of like, oh my god, I'm hanging out with the Avengers. This is weird. It should not be this important.
Yeah, a little bit of meta stuff going on there. I think it is almost a commentary on the films in general, but I think for Paul Rudd's casting alone, the character more so the movies, I really enjoyed.
Cool. Yeah, I'd probably be the same. Also, very good Stan Lee cameo, which is something we probably should have commented on the other ones, but we didn't, so it was quite good. I don't know if do you remember it? It's like Michael Penn is telling the story about my buddy had a girlfriend who said this, blah blah blah, and all this, and it's like cutting between all these people where it's them talking, but it's Michael Penna's voice matching the lip movements, and then it cuts to Stan Lee as a bartender, but it's just like Michael Penna's voice of telling the story over Stan Lee. It's well done. It's funny. So what are you thinking?
She's were really stacked heavy in B there. Do I prefer it to Captain America, the First Avenger? No. Do I prefer it to Iron Man 3? I can put it after Iron Man 3 unless you have some strong opinion. And before Thor, sorry. Clarify.
So you want it before Thor?
Yeah. But
I think we should swap the two Thors there. Did you say that you thought 2 was better? Oh, sorry, you did.
I preferred 2.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
And you judged me heavily.
I did. I'll continue to. Ant-Man. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. I can. Yeah. We can go with that. So just a quick rearrange before we do the final one. So obviously all those ones in tiers on their own. That's fine. The B we just kind of ran through. Are you okay with the order of B? So.
Yeah.
Okay. So looking to the S tier, we have Iron Man, the Avengers, and Captain America, the Winter Soldier. What order would that be for you?
I would straight swap Iron Man and Winter Soldier.
Do you think Winter Soldier top?
Yeah.
Then Avengers, then Iron Man.
Yeah.
Okay. I can get on board with that. I probably would have gone Avengers, Winter Soldier, Iron Man, but that's probably a bit of nostalgia. Yeah, Winter Soldier is probably the better movie, really. Cool. Okay, so our final ranking is S tier, The Winter Soldier, Avengers, Iron Man. A tier, Guardians of the Galaxy. B tier, Avengers Age of Ultron, Captain America, the First Avenger. Iron Man 3, Ant-Man, Thor The Dark World, Thor. C tier, Iron Man 2, and the only one that was Multiverse Saga bad is The Incredible Hulk.
That concludes our rankings of Phase 1 and Phase 2 of the MCU. We'll be looking to rank Phase 3 in advance of the Fantastic Four, First Steps, during the summer. In our next episode, we'll be looking at ranking how difficult each of the missions are in all 7 of the Mission Impossible movies in advance of the release of The Final Reckoning. In the meantime, please like and subscribe, and thank you for taking the time to watch.